of the things we think, say, or do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Is it the truth?
A very warm evening to everyone, and welcome you back to the ASEAN Youth Peacebuilders program. And hope those who celebrate Deepavali had a nice holiday yesterday with your family members and your friends. So thank you so much for being able to accommodate this change to a Tuesday instead of the regular Monday session. And also today we are 1 hour earlier as well. So thank you for all those who have, when you entered, you already have your country code, your name already. So that's good practice. And for those who have not got it ready, so please, this will be the very last time we're going to remind you. No more reminders next week, and you'll just be left in the main room without being able to allocate into the breakout sessions. Okay, so do that as a discipline, so as part of this program. So today we have a change of speaker because the original speaker is not feeling well. He's on sick leave, but we do have someone with us. Her name is Leah Paracras. Leah Paracras is a global peace builder and director of partnerships at the Institute for Economics and Peace, where she leads international initiatives promoting positive peace across governments, civil society, and business. So with experience in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, she has facilitated peace education programs, contributed to global policy dialogues, and co-authored works on peace, security, and sustainability. She holds a master's in international conflict and security. So Leah is dedicated to empowering youth to create more peaceful and resilient societies. Now, I'm not sure whether do you hear the ding, 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 ding sound? Do y'all hear that while I'm speaking? You don't? Oh, okay, great. Because while I'm actually sharing all these, I hear a lot of ding, ding, ding sound in the back end because there are many latecomers. So appreciate that you are all on time. We start at 8. Please come in and be in the Zoom room 5 to 10 minutes before. So today's session, we're going to focus on building peace through positive peace, and an introduction to IEP, which is the Institute for Economics and Peace. So I'll leave this session in the hands of Leah Paracras, and let's give her a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. I am very honored to be here with all of you speaking this evening. So as Joanne just mentioned in that kind introduction, my name is Leah Paracras, and I'm the Director of Partnerships at the Institute for Economics and Peace. We're best known for a report that we have called the Global Peace Index. If anybody's ever heard of that, can you put an emoji or a reaction on the screen? Has anybody ever heard of the Global Peace Index before? Yes, 1, maybe 2 people. Great, great, great. Okay, so we're going to be diving a little bit into the Global Peace Index today, but more importantly, we're going to be looking at a tool that we've created based on data. So looking at it from a different perspective, looking at peace from a quantitative perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Great, so I'm hoping you all can see this now. So as a short introduction, the Institute for Economics and Peace, we are a nonprofit think tank. So think tank means that we center our work all around research. That's not all we do, because we also do a lot of training and education programs, but we were founded off of this idea that we want to understand what are the key drivers of peace. And what are the different economic benefits that come to countries and that come to local communities when there's improvements in peace in a local area? If any of you have done any reading in peace building, any work in peace building before, you might know that oftentimes when people say they're studying peace, what they're really studying is the conflict. What they're really studying is how wars start or what happened in wars. And we're an institute that's really trying to focus on what happens when there's peace in an area. What happens when there's improvements in peace? And so that's really the underlying philosophy behind the Institute for Economics and Peace. As an organization, we partner with a lot of different institutions around the world. So we work a lot with the World Bank, we work a lot with the United Nations, we work with universities. One of our most strategic partnerships is with Rotary International. So we've partnered with Rotary for almost a decade now, working with Rotary members all around the world on how they can be building really meaningful, sustainable peace projects. So a little bit about how we were started. Our founder was a tech entrepreneur, and he had a foundation, a family foundation. He's a philanthropist, and he was doing a lot of development programs. So he was working in some of the most impoverished communities around the world, doing maybe food programs or water programs, livelihood programs. And he started to realize something, which was in a lot of the places that were in most need economically, they also had a lot of challenges with different forms of conflict and violence. And so he was on his computer in 2006, I think it was, and he tried to Google what's the most peaceful country in the world. And Google had no answer for him. There was nothing online to answer that question. And so what he decided to do was to bring together a group of international researchers to say, how could you measure this concept of peace? So often when we think about peace, we all would have our own individual interpretations of what that means. It means something different and unique to everybody. And when you study peace, typically people think of it through a qualitative lens. How do you feel about something, or studying the historical context? Himself being an entrepreneur, he said, how do we measure it? How do we look at it through a quantitative lens, which is really one of the first attempts to do this? To take a concept that might be a little bit fluffy, or it might be a little bit soft and open to interpretation. How can we get numbers behind this? And so what he came up with, and what this team of researchers came up with, was the very first edition of the Global Peace Index. And that was back in 2008. And what the Global Peace Index does is it looks at 23 different indicators related to peace. And these are across 3 domains. So the first domain is ongoing conflict. Is there active conflict going on within that country? Or is that country involved in conflict outside of its borders? How intense are those conflicts? The next domain is safety and security. That's things like, do you feel safe when you're walking home at night? Is there violent crime happening in neighborhoods in this country? Is there access to small weapons? Can you easily get your hands on a handgun, for example? Are there violent demonstrations happening? Are there internal displacements? And the last domain has to do with militarization. And so in the peace world, in the political science world, there's 2 different sides of the militarization coins. Some argue that the more military you have, the safer you are. Some argue that if you have less military, that means that you must inherently be safer because you don't feel threatened by others. You don't have a need for more military. The Institute for Economics and Peace in this report take that second point. So we say intense militarization is a negative effect on a country's peace score. So we look at things like amount of weapons imported, exported, and military expenditure as a percentage of GDP for every country. In this category, we also have a positive indicator, which is UN peacekeeping fund contributions. So if a country is contributing to peacekeeping missions around the world, that's a positive impact on their score. Now, you may say, Leah, I can think of at least 20 other indicators that should be on this list. And I agree with you. There are many indicators that could be added to this report. Our constraint on this report is that we are comparing 163 different countries and territories. That means that we have to have data that's comparable across 163 different countries. Once you start getting into a lot of other ideas around these concepts, you'll find that not every country provides that data, maybe. Not every country defines it. There's a lot of concepts that aren't globally defined. There's a lot of sources that have really different perceptions on that. I also want to mention with data sources, we have over 150,000 different data sets that we take into account when we look at this. So we do not necessarily inherently trust one source over the other. We are always cross-comparing different data sets to make sure our various sources telling the same story. As a way to verify data, are these multiple different agencies all telling the same story? Are the NGOs telling the same story? Is the government telling the same story? And we do a bit of cross-checking with the data sources as well. And so what we've seen, if we look at from when we started the report in 2008 to today, peacefulness has declined. So in the Global Peace Index, the higher the score means the higher the levels of conflict. So you can see on that top graph, that is the global changes in peace over the past years. You see, if we measure every single year, there were only 2 times when peace improved compared to the year before. And those largely had to do with major terrorism incidents around the world and the changing geopolitics of different terrorist organizations. Other than that, every year has deteriorated compared to the year before. Globally, we see that 87 countries became less peaceful compared to last year, where 74 countries became more peaceful according to those 23 indicators that we measured before. And so every year with the Global Peace Index, we look at a couple of different themes that are relevant. And I won't go into great detail today, but I will highlight a couple of them because I think they're really important for us to be reflecting on. The first of which is what we call geopolitical fragmentation. That's large words, I know, but when we look at how the globe is working, we've seen that there's kind of been power dynamics, often inside China, US, maybe Russia. And what we're seeing is that there's greater diversity in countries that are coming into power and that are expanding their influence around the world. So we see a specific increase in what we call middle powers. Those are countries like Turkey or even Australia, where I am today. We see that there are currently 78 countries that are involved in a conflict outside of their borders. Today, often in the news, when you hear about conflicts, you hear about Israel-Gaza, you hear about Ukraine. There are 59 active state-based conflicts today, 59. So the media is really focusing on a couple, but there are many, many conflicts happening all over the world. And we have 17 countries that have had over 1,000 people die due to conflict in the past year. So we're talking, these are global phenomenon that are not focused just in what we hear in the media, but it's really important to notice that there's many conflicts going on all over. We see that there's an increase in militarization. So 84 countries have been increasing their military expenditure. And a lot of that is happening right now in Europe due to the Russia-Ukraine war. We also see that many conflicts have risk of escalation. For this time, for the first time in our report, we've actually, as as everybody else in the world, we're using new AI mechanisms to try to understand how conflict dynamics are changing. And so we were able to partner with some AI firms and look into what are the potential risk factors of conflicts escalating. And we found that there is a list of different factors in conflicts that mean that there could be higher escalation, such as founded in an urban area. That's one example. And I highly recommend that you do look at our report if you're interested in one of these core themes, because we go very into depth in the report, which I will not be doing today. But please do have a look at it if you're interested. Oh no, I was going to ask the group. Maybe some of you saw. Can anybody guess in the chat what the most peaceful country in the world is? Iceland. Yes, somebody saw. Finland. Any other guesses? Poland, Finland,
Bhutan,
Iceland.
Switzerland,
What was it?
Switzerland,
Switzerland. Great guess. Denmark, Iceland, New Zealand. These are all wonderful guesses. Bhutan, New Zealand, Norway. Okay, so many of you got it. Here we have the top 10 most peaceful countries across those 23 indicators. Iceland is at the top, and they have been at the top since the founding of our index. Does anybody have some guesses on the least peaceful countries in the world? Afghanistan. Somebody said Iceland. Hey, least peaceful. United States, Myanmar, Russia, Yemen, US, Ukraine, Russia, Iran, Palestine, Russia. These are great guesses. Most of you have guesses that are in the bottom 10. South Sudan, Afghanistan. Okay, here we go. Here we have the least peaceful countries based on the Global Peace Index. So many of you did get this right. Russia was at the bottom of the list this year, closely followed by Ukraine and Sudan. Otherwise, we have the Congo, DRC, Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria, South Sudan, Israel, and Mali. So if you think back again to the fact that militarization is one of the three domains, that sometimes helps people understand why certain countries are on this list and why certain countries aren't. Many guessed USA. USA is very low, but it's not in the bottom 10. I think it's number 143, maybe, if my memory serves me correct. And so all 10 of these countries are engaged in at least one conflict. There's no country in the bottom 10 that doesn't have it's not involved in an ongoing conflict at the moment. So this is the map that we come up with every year. If you look at our website that I have at the end of the presentation, it's called Vision of Humanity. There's an interactive map. You can scroll over your countries. You can investigate how they rank on the different indicators. And I do invite you to do that after this presentation for sure. So, as you can imagine, we come out with this index every year, and people do care about it. We oftentimes get calls from different leaders around the world, and they call us and they say, IEP, I'm not happy with where my country ranks. How can I fix it? What can I do to get a better score on the Global Peace Index? And we guide them to look at the indicators, see where they rank high and low, try to make changes there. But we also get a lot of calls from people who are just like you, who say, I want to be contributing to peace. How can I make a change on the Global Peace Index for my country? I might not have influence over the highest levels of military expenditure in my country, but how can I make a difference? And so this really led IEP to its next evolution as an organization. And we asked ourselves the question, the countries that are most peaceful in this world, what do they have in common statistically? What is the data telling us about the most peaceful countries in the world? And so what we were able to do is we took the Global Peace Index and we asked ourselves over 50 years of data, what is the story telling us? And to understand what we're getting to here, we really have to look at this fact that there's many definitions of peace, but the two that we look into are negative peace and positive peace. So negative peace is what's covered in the Global Peace Index. That's the absence of violence or the absence of fear of violence. So that's one side of the peace coin. The other side are the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. And how I like to think about this, an analogy that I like to use, is that the human body. If you have a terminal illness, you may be in a state of negative peace. If you have no illness, does that mean that you are the picture perfect image of health just because you have no illness? No. What takes to be the picture perfect image of health is good sleep, eating well, moving your body, having loving relationships, all of these things in life that you add that make you to your full potential of health. So that's the same thing we're talking about when we're looking at peace. So negative peace is still a good thing. You want to achieve negative peace. That means you're not afraid of violence and that there's no violence around you. Positive peace are all the beautiful things in a society that can really create and sustain peace, that can allow every single person in your community to flourish. And so in going through this process of looking at the Global Peace Index and then saying, what do these countries have in common? What we found is that statistically, countries that are high in peace, and really important, countries that are resilient in peace. So that means that maybe there's a natural disaster. Maybe there's a political scandal. Maybe there's a global recession that happens. They're able to maintain that level of peace. So it's not only the ones who are most peaceful today, but the ones that remain most peaceful regardless of different kinds of shocks that may happen to their community. What do they statistically have in common? Well, we found that there's 8 factors that these places have in common, that high peace places have in common. They have a well-functioning government. There's equitable distribution of resources. Everybody has access to the same resources. There's free flow of information. They have good relations with neighbors. There's a high level of human capital, so that's all about education. There's acceptance of the rights of others. They have low levels of corruption. Notice everybody laughs that it's not. Why is it not no corruption? It's because there's no country in the world that has no corruption. So the data tells us that it's low levels of corruption. And they have a sound business environment. So these are the 8 factors of positive peace. These are all the things that when added into a society, it allows peace to flourish and to be a resilient peace as well. And so we looked at when a country is investing into these 8 pillars, what else happens there? We find that there's higher per capita income, so people have more money, individuals have more money. There's a greater resilience to all kinds of shocks that may happen. As we all know, natural disasters can happen in any country, regardless of their income level. Places that have strong positive peace have the better ability to deal with and grow from those shocks afterwards. There's better environmental outcomes across the board. They have higher measures of well-being. There's a lot of correlation with population happiness and positive peace, population health indicators, and high levels of positive peace. And they have better performance across all of the sustainable development goals as well. So the United Nations, as you may know, comes out with sustainable development goals. And across all of those, countries that are higher in positive peace perform better on them. And so we can get into the definitions of the 8 pillars very briefly, just so we can start to understand what they're actually about before we go on to our discussions in our groups. The first, well-functioning government. So this is a government that delivers quality services. They have trust from their population, and they're able to uphold a rule of law. And I want to mention something important here, that well-functioning government can also mean governance. Because we're not necessarily going to be working and focusing on government level policies, this could mean for a Rotary project you have in the future. How do you make sure that there's well-functioning governance of that project? Or maybe in your workplace, how do you make sure there's well-functioning governance in your office? That kind of thing. So these can all be applied on the local level as well as on the national and international level. A sound business environment provides strong economic conditions that support the private sector operations and productivity. Equitable distribution of resources can simply be defined as fair access to resources such as education, health, or economic opportunities. Acceptance of the rights of others is tolerance and respect of rights regardless of somebody's identity. Good relations with neighbors. So there's peaceful cooperation within communities. So quite legitimately with you and your neighbor, or with you and the neighboring city, but also between countries. So how are your trade deals? How are your diplomatic relations? Those kinds of things are all covered in this good relations with neighbors. Free flow of information, meaning you have open access to information. There's a quality media sources that you can access, but you also have the freedom to share information. So free flow of information is a two-way street, not only to receive and read, but also to share. High levels of human capital. So this is about education. Education in the formal sense of going to school, but also skills. Any kind of skills that could help with employment, that could help with participation in society. And low levels of corruption, that's pretty self-explanatory, but efficient resource allocation and trust in public institutions, or trust in whichever institution is leading a financial process. So, oops, my things are a little bit out of order there. So I want to mention before we move on to the Rotary section is that you may have seen that the 8 pillars, they're all connected in this web, right? So what we see is that peace operates as a system. And societal systems are really complex. They're never the same in one moment to the next moment. Our society today is different than it will be tomorrow. Things are always evolving and always changing. And these 8 pillars are very interdependent on one another. If you have suddenly the sound business environment collapses, and for whatever reason, there's an interruption there, all other 8 pillars will slightly drop as well. If you see high levels of human capital lift way up, all of a sudden you have a highly educated population, your business environment's going to do better. You'll have a better functioning government with more skilled people. So all of these kinds of things are moving together at all times. And so we see that when there's active investment into all 8 pillars, that's where you see societies transform. And we've been talking about this on a national level, but this is also the same thing for each and every one of our home villages, hometowns, is that as individuals, we invest into these 8 pillars. As groups, we invest into these 8 pillars. As Rotary clubs, interact, whomever it may be, investment into these 8 pillars has a ripple effect on the society. And we see that there's more prosperous societies as we invest in all 8 of these. So they're interconnected. They work together. They're ever changing and reinforcing one another and shifting. But it's a way to look at peace through almost a bird's eye lens, because peace is never just one of these things, and conflict is never just one of these things. They're all interrelated. And so IEP and Rotary have partnered together for 8 years now. And Rotary, their Rotary mission area for the area of focus has to do with providing peace education, capacity building, strategic relationships, and integrating peace building into programs. And so Rotary International partnered with us because they saw that the positive peace framework provides a data-backed roadmap that any one of us can pick up and use in any project across any area of focus. And it answers this question of like, how can I, as a small club maybe, or a small group, really make a difference? The data shows us that when individuals, when small groups are investing into the 8 pillars, you see ripple effects in peace building. And so because we have this research-backed framework, and since it's so flexible, it can mean something slightly different for every community. That is why Rotary has partnered with IEP to use this framework and standardize in this framework across its work. So in very short, we partner with Rotary in 4 different ways around the positive peace framework. We have education opportunities, just like this one, that build peace capacity. You can use the positive peace framework to assist in community consultations or maybe an analysis of a community that you're going to work with in the future. Understand what are the levels of peace within that community. You can use it as a project design tool. So maybe you have a core challenge you want to focus on. Maybe it's youth unemployment. And then you can build and model different projects using the 8 pillars of positive peace. Or maybe you want to be able to measure local changes in peace. And so you can also use the framework for that. We will be diving into all of these use cases for positive peace when we're together with you in person. And we absolutely cannot wait for that time. We're really looking forward to it. And we'll be working with you to understand how do you analyze a context and how do you build really meaningful peace projects using the framework as well. But before we're able to spend time in person, we do have the rest of this session in which I want to ask you to go into the breakout rooms and look at the first 2 top questions. Which pillar do you expect to improve the most over the next 5 years in your region and why? And secondly, which pillar do you expect to deteriorate over the next 5 years in the ASEAN region and why? And if your group moves really quickly and you're all ahead of the game and you know the answers, you can move on to the third question of what do you think is the strongest and weakest pillar in your own community where you come from? So I will put these questions in the chat as well as the definitions of all 8 pillars. So you'll have those to look at while you're in your breakout rooms. Before we break, maybe does anybody have any pressing questions about IEP, the Global Peace Index, or positive peace? Maybe you can pop them in a chat if you do, and we will get the information in the chat as well. So does anybody have any questions?
Somebody raised their hand.
Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
Hi, Leah. It's Camila from Singapore. Thank you so much for the sharing. It's really, really interesting. I just have one sort of pressing question, which is, do you find, or maybe from the research, has the team found that a country's colonial history has an influence on their peace post-independence?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look into positive peace, one of the larger pieces of work that I didn't present on today is called HALO. And it's basically a process in which we understand how does a society actually change over time? How does that really happen on the in-depth level? And some of the things we notice is that history really matters, that the historical track and trajectory really matters in where you are today and where you're going tomorrow. So colonialism absolutely has an impact there. If you look at the impact of a colonial power overtaking a country, I mean, all pillars of positive peace are negatively impacted by that, right? I mean, you could think about it anywhere. So we definitely see that that does have an impact, and that historical trajectory impacts where a country lies today. In short, yes, it does matter, and it does take it into account when we look at how societies change and how they move, and where they fall today on our indices as well. Do we have any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or type it into the chat if you don't want to speak.
Hello, I have a question.
Sure.
Uh, from your experience, what is the most effective way for young people to apply the positive peace framework in their own communities?
That's a really
Yeah,
great question.
thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so we will be getting into this when we do our training, more in detail. I think from today's point of view and what we're going to be doing next, the best thing for all of you to do is to really get comfortable with the framework first. You're not going to be able to apply it to the best of the ability without understanding all of the intricacies, which is why we're going to also be going through the online course of the Positive Peace Academy that will get you really familiarized with how to use it. The Positive Peace framework is really adaptable. So we've seen it used by young people in a lot of different ways. One of my personal favorite ways to do it, and again, it depends on what your own skills are and interests are, but is to be using it as a project design tool. So a lot of times what we do when we do different trainings is that we work with groups to understand what are the levels of positive peace in the community that you're seeking to help. So if it's your own community, for example, a great way to get started would be to survey people on where they think the community is performing across the 8 pillars of positive peace. Maybe they say that there's actually really good free flow of information. We have a lot of resources there. And then maybe they'll say, oh, but we also have a lot of corruption or something like that. And that can serve as a good survey tool to understand the dynamics that are at play within a community. It's really important to know what's going well in addition to what's not going well. So from there, then you can look at designing different initiatives that really strengthen all 8 pillars of positive peace. I know that might sound a little abstract to you right now, but we will be doing hands-on exercises with you so that you become comfortable using the framework to design initiatives. Thanks for the question.
Hi, Leah.
Hi.
Shall we go into the breakout room so that we have sufficient time for them to share after coming back?
That would be great.
Would 10
Okay.
minutes be sufficient?
Yeah, so let's go for the first 2 questions for
Okay,
sure.
so can all of you just take a screenshot on the questions so that you have them when you get into the breakout room and you have these questions for your discussion? All right, so we are going to open up the breakout rooms and you're going to get in there and you'll have 10 minutes.
Great.
Hold on. Discussion. So do we have volunteers to share what you've discussed? And if you would like to volunteer, please raise your hand on Zoom. Zoom, raise hand. Any volunteer would like to share? Thanks. Yes, I'm in
Hello. Yes. First of all, thank you for the information that the guest speaker invited to us. So our group just get the recent trends in peace and how they connect to positive peace in our region. We noted that global peacefulness has declined for 13 of the past 17 years. So with increasing geopolitical fragmentation and record levels of conflict. So in our Asian content, we believe the pillar most likely to improve over the next 5 years in human capital as education, technology, and youth engagement are rapidly advancing across the region, so that we expect good relations with neighbors, or the free flow of information may deteriorate due to rising regional tensions and misinformation challenges. In Myanmar, our group felt that human capital is our maybe strongest pillar. People are resilient and eager to learn, while the well-functioning governance and acceptance of the rights remain our weakness, given ongoing political situation and social divisions. Overall, we concluded that building positive peace start with straightened tracks, education, and fairness in our community. Yes, that's all we are discuss. Thank you.
Joanne, you're muted.
Is it my turn to go next?
Philippines, Vong Japatong.
Yep, that's me. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and provide a brief scenario of what happened in the group. It has been a very interesting discussion in the group. Everyone shared their thoughts fairly, and I think everyone has been very passionate. I will try to give justice. We've had varying answers, but the point would be similar. For the first question, which pillar do we expect to improve the most over the next 5 years in ASEAN, and why? We've had varying answers again, but I think the highlight would be high levels of human capital, because there's a growing investment in education in ASEAN, digital literacy and skills training, especially as our government and private sectors prepare for the future of work and a more connected regional economy. So the rapid expansion of online learning platforms, even what we're doing now, scholarship programs, regional collaborations like ASEAN University Network, this specific program on peace building, make education more accessible than ever. And our youth population, they're becoming more globally aware, entrepreneurial, driving innovation, and definitely social participation. For
Okay,
the
thank you.
next,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to go quickly on
please
the next
summarize.
question.
Yeah.
Acceptance. What pillar do we expect to deteriorate the most is definitely acceptance of the rights of others, basically because of the rising polarization, both online and offline, continuing to challenge our tolerance and social cohesion. For example, misinformation on social media that amplifies hate speech, discrimination, political or religious divides. We were not able to answer question 3, so I think that's a wrap. Thank you.
Thank you. And Cambodia, So Ting.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for a very amazing presentation, Ms. Leah. So, from our group, we have a very diverse idea. We have the mixed ideas. So I would come up with this. The first one is that I would mention the pillar that we thought it would be expected to improve in the next 5 years. We would like to focus on the high levels of human capital, because as we can see that in Asian country nowadays, we need to improve on the educations, skill developments, and also youth empowerments. And many countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and also Cambodia are very heavily investing in education reform, also digital literacies and the vocational training as well. And for the second one, it is the pillar that we expect it to be the deteriorates the most in Asia, we would say it would be the good relation with neighbors, because we can see that in our community, people actually value the social harmony and also the mutual support. But neighbors can sometimes often help each other during the festival or many other things, but sometimes it can cause the conflict as well. And for the third question, from our opinion, the strongest pillar in our own community, it would be the free flow of information. As we can see that the improvement of technology nowadays is very strong, and the media literacy, the freedom of speech is very important, that everyone should be access to it. And the last one is the weakest pillars in my own community is the low levels of corruptions. As we can see that corruption still affects some of the area in our daily lives, like as public service and local governance. So this would be the weakest pillars in our community as a whole. So thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. And I'd like to listen to Meili after Potter. Okay, yeah.
Yes,
Hi. Okay, so my name is
Go
Pata.
ahead.
I'm from Singapore, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Philippines group. Our group, for the first question, our group had different opinions. Some of us believe that high levels of human capital will improve in the most because ASEAN countries are investing more in education, skills, and healthcare. Others mentioned the economic and democracy, saying that growing awareness and regional cooperation could strengthen these areas too. Overall, we think ASEAN is moving forward in developing people and building strong institutions. For the second question, our group thought that free flow of information and well-functioning government might deteriorate in the next 5 years. We discussed that misinformation and politic instability are becoming more common in some ASEAN country, which could affect transparency and trust in institutions. So even technology is improving, the way information and government systems are managed might still face challenges. For the third question, we didn't get much time to discuss, so I will share my opinion. So in my community, the acceptance of the rights of others is a strongest pillar because people are genuinely respectful, tolerant, and supportive of each other. However, in high levels of human capital, maybe the weakest pillar because access to quality education and skill development is still limited, especially for young people in rural areas. That's me and the group. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last one, Meili, please summarize in 2 minutes if you can.
So thank you. So I'm Meili. I'm a VRB reporter from the Cambodia team. And so I'm going to start with the first question. So for the next 5 years, we expect with the high level of the human capital pillar to improve with the most, that many countries are investing in education and skill trainings and the knowledge sharing program we have with the young people to gain with the skill, like connect with others and contribute to their community, that it will support with the economic growth and threaten with the peace in the regions. And for the next question, and our group think that good relations with the neighbor is the pillar that could face with the challenges and political tension, especially around other country, may affect with the collaboration between the country and regional stability. If this tension increase, it could be the weakened trust and the collaboration among the ASEAN country. And for the political security pillar, maybe also be the territory slightly if the issue like corruption limited with the transparency and the political populations are not addressed, and training with the governments, increasing with the transparency and the building with the trust between citizens, it will be the key to preventing and promoting, including with the decision making, and the can help maintain with the stability and ensure that political security system continue to support the peaceful society. So in overall, while the ASEAN is likely to see with the growth in the human capital and careful attention to the governance and the regional relationship is the necessary to sustain with the long-term peace and the stability between country in the ASEAN country. Yeah, thank you. That's all about me.
Thank you very much. And in view of time, you see, time really flies. It's 1 hour, and we are now 9 p.m. in Singapore, Malaysia, and Brunei. I'd like to invite Leah to just say a few words just to wrap up, and then we'll take a group photo for today. And any other feedback or any other summaries, please text them into the Youth Peacebuilders chat group, okay? Yeah. Right,
Right.
Leah.
Thank you so much. What I want to say is, wow, I'm so impressed with how everyone was just able to pick up these definitions so quickly and reflect on them so thoughtfully within the region. I'm so excited to hear your answers, and it makes me really look forward to working with you all again soon. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being present and participating in the discussions. I can't wait to continue this work with you. And I think it's going to be a really, really great program. I'm also putting into the chat the link to our website if you do want to look at the report, if you want to look at more about positive peace, please see all the information at visionofhumanity.org as well. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to the hosts as well for organizing. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you to the team behind the scenes. I really look forward to seeing you all again. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leah. And thank you to all the organizing committee members and the volunteer coaches, and also all our partners.